Kakashi and Obito form a duality almost as potent as Indra and Asura's. Despite not being the same as Indra and Asura, such as their continual reincarnating spirit, Obito and Kakashi's dyad form something just as powerful. Kakashi and Obito's spirits, when merging, more or less, were as powerful as a merging of Indra and Asura's chakras. You can call bull on that if you want, but never forget that Kakashi gained access to Six Paths power, a double Mangekyo Sharingan, both Kamuis, and a completed full-body Susanoo. Oh, and don't forget that any blindness caused by Kakashi overusing his Mangekyo appeared to be healed. A lot of this is connected to Obito becoming the Ten-Tails Jinchuriki for a while there, but the point remains. They weren't Indra and Asura, yet formed something comparable through their rivalry, and that's something that has to be commended. I can be a little harsh on Obito sometimes, it's mostly a running gag, but I can't deny that he and Kakashi's relationship is something worth talking about. And so I feel like it's high time we let Obito and Kakashi see what they can both do if both of them were reborn with all of their memories and powers. Welcome to the Amagi. Before we begin, only 25% of our viewers are subscribed, so if you're a fan of the video, please like and double check if you are subscribed. And with that out of the way, let's get into the video. Obito's eyes opened. Yes, such a simple way to begin the story. How much more symbolic could it be for someone who had lived their life so blinded by darkness, by hatred, to finally open their eyes again? Obito, frankly, had expected to open his eyes and see black darkness, only lit by an orange glow of flames, the heat of the fire casting light out, only to be consumed by shadow. Obito expected to see hell. A small hope had been that he might see heaven and reign again, but neither of these things were true. No, he was opening his eyes in the same world he had been in, or so he had thought. What was this? Some limbo between heaven and hell? Some purgatory? Or was this the first circle as imagined by the author of Dante's Inferno? Some realm where spirits wandered the earth eternally, unable to pass on, in a hell of their own creation, living their life wondering what might have been. Then he heard his voice being called. "Obito, come down for breakfast," the voice of his grandmother came. No, he was not in purgatory, nor was he in hell. He was somehow alive, perhaps some power of the Six Paths he had pilfered much earlier on from the Ten-Tails, from Madara to help keep Naruto alive. Rising from his bed, he saw the sun shining in from beyond the windows. The light was shining in calmly and sweetly, the wind carrying a subtle sweetness of cherry blossoms and blooming flowers. To say Obito was confused was an understatement, but he covered his confusion with a sense of confidence and went along with it to avoid suspicion. This was an old habit he developed during his time as a rogue shinobi. Never let anyone know what you're thinking or feeling. Hide it all. At least, that's what he told himself. His life had been dangerous and difficult, and old instincts kicked in. Never show yourself to be confused, even if you are. But this was a different time, a different day, or so he guessed. But even if these were tools from a past he wished to forget, the tools were there all the same. He came downstairs to see his grandmother. She smiled at him. "Good morning, Obito," she said. "Good morning, Grammy," he said, the same as he always had. There was a small bowl of rice on the table for him, along with a cup of green tea. He sat down at the table. His grandmother was doing the dishes. As she did, Obito examined the food for any sign of poisoning. Something was wrong here. His grandmother was long dead, and last Obito checked, he was a bit older than 9 or 12 or whatever. Genjutsu, he wondered? Maybe I was caught in the infinite Tsukiyomi somehow, he thought within himself. He couldn't explain how the world was the way it was now. He knew what it was like before, where he had come from before. Changes on this scale were hard to accomplish without some powerful genjutsu. Perhaps something only an Otsutsuki could do. All the same, if this was a genjutsu, then the food couldn't truly be poisoned, as it was very rare that a genjutsu was so powerful that it could affect reality. He proceeded to eat and detected no odd tastes on his tongue, only nostalgia. The taste was unapologetically his grandmother's recipe. It was strange for rice to taste so different. Obito always suspected that she added something sweet to it, like cinnamon or the like, to give it a contrasting flavor compared to the soy that she lightly drizzled over the top. He never was able to replicate it, but it was something always in the back of his mind. As he finished it, his grandmother spoke. "A growing boy eating a hearty breakfast. I love to see it. Now it's about time for you to go meet up with your team, is it not? Obito nodded. He didn't know what he was supposed to do that day, so her words really did help him find his footing in this new situation he found himself in. He was lucky that she gave him this info. Or perhaps it was that whoever cast this strange genjutsu was orchestrating it from behind to force him in a certain direction. It wouldn't be the first time one had pulled his strings like a marionette. Obito would soon leave the building to go towards where he always met up with his team. Upon getting there, he saw Kakashi waiting as well. Obito waved. "Hey Kakashi, I thought I was late, but it looks like Minato-sensei hasn't arrived yet." Kakashi nodded. "Well, I think today is one of those days where we're not expected to do much and can just goof off on company time," Kakashi said. Obito thought back to these moments. It was quite rare for Kakashi to be so nonchalant about shinobi business. Normally, Kakashi at this age was by the book, and any moment anyone slipped up, he slid into his judgmental nature and looked down upon you. Perhaps the shinobi he became blended in with the memories, and whoever cast this genjutsu on him didn't know the history. At this point, Obito raised a half ram sign and spoke the word, "release." Nothing happened, and Kakashi just kept watching him. "What was that about?" he asked. Obito slipped back into his personality as he realized that he couldn't break the genjutsu. "Oh, you're just acting so strange, I thought it was a genjutsu." "Strange?" Kakashi asked. "Well, normally you seem a bit more stiff about the whole business of relaxing on company time." Kakashi thought about it. "I guess I normally would be, huh?" Obito found it strange that Kakashi didn't seem to recognize how he would act. He thought to try something. "Well, you know what they say," Obito said. "Those who don't follow the shinobi rules are trash," he said, as if he were encouraging Kakashi's uppity behavior. But as he did, Kakashi's response was simple. "But those who abandon even one of their friends are worse than trash," Kakashi said, as if almost out of habit. Obito tacked on something else. "Well, if I'm gonna be called trash either way, I'd rather break the rules. And if that somehow makes me anything less than a real shinobi, then I'll crush all the so-called real shinobi." In that moment, Kakashi turned his head to look at Obito. He stood up and began to walk towards him. "Let me ask you something, and this is gonna sound weird, but what was the last memory you have before this morning?" Obito went out on a limb and followed what his gut was telling him. "I got impaled by a bone shard from some angry celestial woman and turned to dust." Kakashi was surprised. "So I'm not the only one who got thrown back in time, huh?" Obito began to speak. "Are you sure we're not in the infinite Tsukiyomi?" he asked. "I'm pretty sure. We did manage to stop Kaguya after you died. We even went on further to do other things, including stopping the moon from falling to Earth." "How do you know that wasn't part of the Tsukiyomi?" Obito asked. "How do you know anything we've ever done isn't part of the Tsukiyomi?" Kakashi replied. Obito sat there and thought about it. "Well, then, what's the explanation for this?" he asked. "Well, to my best guess, I would assume we've somehow reincarnated back in time." "What makes you think this?" "Well, your last memory was dying, and I remember a time after you died. But what's funny is that my own last memory was my own death." "Wait, what? You died? How?" "Spoilers," Kakashi said with a smirk. "Come on, Kakashi, you gotta tell me how you died. You got to watch mine." And so Kakashi whispered it in Obito's ear. Obito then spoke. "No way, that's what killed you?" Kakashi nodded. Obito then spoke. "I'll never look at a croissant the same way again." "Well, considering that our last memories were our deaths, and our deaths were very far apart, it's obvious to me that there's some form of dilation of time on our ends," he said. "So time is somehow involved here. And though Tsukiyomi can affect time, I simply don't think that's the case." "So you assume we just reincarnated? For what purpose, though?" "Perhaps a very simple one." Kakashi was waiting to see what Obito might say. Obito began to understand. "So I can set things right." Kakashi nodded. "But then, why are you here?" Obito asked. "Best I can guess," Kakashi said, "is I'm here to support you. Regardless of how our troubled and complicated history went, there's no denying that we were both parts of a single coin, two halves of a whole. Maybe the reason why this has happened is because of that very thing. The events of that day weren't your fault only. I too had a hand in it." "Don't think like that, Kakashi. You didn't do anything wrong," Obito said. "It was all because of me. When Rin died, my eyes opened to how horrible this world is," he said. "I lost faith in what it could be and traveled down a dark path. You're not the only one. When I thought you died, Rin kept me together, but when she died, I sank to a new low. Honestly, I couldn't have been much better than you. Our morals aligned. We killed without any care or remorse, and we did so for something we thought would be best for the world. The only difference is that I had someone to pull me out of that point of view early on. You had no one. Had we been there for you, had I managed to save Rin, had we tried to retrieve your body, maybe things would have been different. I suppose there's no point sulking about the past now, Obito said. Not when we've got a chance to change it, together. He held out his fist. Kakashi smiled under his mask. He stuck his fist out, and when the two knuckles collided, there was an electric spark between them. What it was exactly was unknown, but in that moment, they both felt as though they were struck by lightning. Their entire bodies buzzing. Their heads let out a quick throb, as though they each had a sudden aneurysm. But as they both looked up, they discovered something. Kakashi, you still have my Sharingan? He asked. Kakashi closed his regular eye and looked out through his Sharingan. I do. It was then that Kakashi noticed. You have the other one, he said. Obito then realized it. That's peculiar. What amazed Kakashi the most was that Obito's other eye did not display any Sharingan markings. It was as if he only had one. This is strange. For what reason would I have your Sharingan, and you not? Kakashi asked. Obito thought about it. Well, it's just as you said. We've formed a dyad. We're two halves of the same whole. My eye is just as much yours as it is mine. Perhaps whoever did this wants to show us just how important our bond is. If we stand together, there's nothing we can't accomplish, Kakashi said with a smile. Obito reciprocated the grin. It was then that they began to get down to business. Okay, so what's the game plan? Kakashi asked. The game plan is that we train. We may have the same powers as we did before, but these bodies could use a serious overhaul. We need more strength, and we need to get used to the position we're in if we want to train things. Then I have a list of things I gotta do. Let me help set up the itinerary, because I know there are things I could improve on. Obito understood. Then It was at that moment that Minato and Rin appeared. Hi, Kakashi, she shouted from a distance. Hi, Obito. Obito saw them coming. We'll talk more about this later. For now, let's focus on this, he said. He turned around and waved. Hi, Rin. Hi, Minato-sensei. And so the three reconnected. To be honest, it wasn't such a bad thing. After so many years, to actually be with Rin again was enough to move Obito to tears. He was a grown man inside of a child's body. The maturity he had gained during his previous run-through of this life still remained, but despite all of that strength, Obito found himself needing to separate himself from the group. He couldn't contain it. Saying it was just for a bathroom break, he moved away from the group and entered a stall just to cry. A few moments passed as he contemplated this. It was then that a hand knocked on the door. Occupied, he shouted out. Are you okay? Kakashi asked. Obito, on the other side, wiped his eyes. Of course I am. You don't sound okay, Kakashi said. A lot has changed for me since we were in these bodies. I learned so much about what it means to be a shinobi, he said. I was taught by very powerful people that tears are a sign of strength. How else can someone fight and do something that brings them this much pain? If you were to fight without crying, then the world would simply assume you don't feel it, and that's easy. The tears are the benchmark. They're what reveals the true strength and magnitude of the trial. They're nothing to be ashamed of. They're honesty in a physical form. So let me ask you again, are you okay? Obito shook his head as though Kakashi could somehow see through the stall. I'm not, he said. It's been so many years since I've seen Rin, and I've done so many bad things. I'm not the same Obito I used to be. I'm not the me that she loved, and if she knew what I had truly done, she'd hate me forever. Kakashi couldn't say that it wasn't true. Rin was still as young in soul as she was in body. She could never truly understand the things Kakashi and Obito had experienced. That was the honest truth, and that's what Kakashi told Obito. But that doesn't mean she'll never understand, Kakashi said. She just needs to live long enough to realize it. And I promise you, Obito, I will do everything in my power to ensure that she does, even if I have to die to do so. You and her were always meant to be. And when it was I who walked away without a scratch, and you who went MIA, I felt as though fate somehow got it wrong. I won't let that happen again. I promise. There was the sound of a door unclicking. Kakashi moved off the door and turned to see it opening up, Obito's face still wet from his tears, his eyes looking down and away from Kakashi as if he were afraid to let Kakashi know he had been crying. Kakashi stepped into the stall and pulled Obito into a tight embrace. We are going to do this together. We are going to ensure the world knows peace. We're all going to go home, and then I'm going to make sure Rin understands who you've become. I'm proud of the decisions you've made, Obito, in finding your way back." After this, Obito and Kakashi began to plan out what they needed to do, and continued training and exercising to get to the point that they needed to be at to harness their full strength and get used to their bodies. They worked so well on missions that it almost seemed as though they were communicating without speaking, as if they shared the same pair of eyes, and maybe they did. This change in perceived personality pleased Minato and impressed Rin. Two bitter rivals had somehow, over the span of a few days, turned into best friends. Had they opened their hearts to each other? What was the secret? The time eventually came, though, that the team would take on the most infamous mission in their history, Kanabi Bridge. But despite the bitter feeling in their stomachs from remembering what transpired here, they knew it wouldn't end the same way. First off, they would stop Rin from being captured at all, as was the plan, and finish the mission Minato had given them. But even should Rin be captured, with the Kamui ability on their side, nothing could crush Obito anymore, and Kakashi could simply just teleport Rin away by looking at her. So, as the mission began, they'd be faced with an Iwanin, Mahiru, who would try to attack them from the trees, but things definitely wouldn't go the same way as they did once before. This time, when Kakashi used his Chidori, he didn't get the tunnel vision he so often did without a Sharingan, meaning that his strike was sure and true, taking out the real Mahiru regardless of his shadow clones. And even if he hadn't, it wasn't like Mahiru could take advantage of Obito's terror. Obito in this moment was perhaps of a more dangerous mind than even Kakashi was, due to the many years his conscience was hard-boiled for the sake of an end that justified means. So poor Mahiru didn't even stand a chance. Then, when Kako and Taiseki appeared, well after Minato had left to help the front lines, not only did the invisibility not work due to the Sharingan, but the memories of what happened that day offered some form of forewarning that saw the two Iwanin killed in combat right then and there. As they stood over the dead bodies, Kakashi put his hand on Obito's shoulder. This was Kakashi's way of encouraging Obito, by reminding him that this was the first change that would ensure that the world never suffered what it previously had, ever again. Moving past this, they made it to the bridge and proceeded to rig it. They finished planting the explosives just as Minato caught back up with them. The team of four would enjoy the fireworks together as the bridge went up in flames. Able to return to their village, the mission completed, they would receive time off to do as they pleased, but this was not the plan for Obito and Kakashi. Meeting at Kakashi's place during the night, they had dinner and spoke. "So we need to put the plan into motion," Obito said as he looked over a map of the shinobi world. Kakashi, eating a bowl of rice, bland and without cinnamon, spoke. "Is there a rush?" he asked. Obito nodded. "Yes. You see, Madara was the one who rescued me, and he yet lives. He's located here, in the mountain's graveyard. He was the reason that Rin was captured in the first place, and a tailed beast placed inside of her. We can't underestimate his ability to plan. Even if we know what he's planning, there's no guarantee that we can stop him from implanting it into Rin. We need to take it out at the source." "That I understand, but my question is if Rin is even in any danger right now. After all, you've never met Madara in this timeline. He likely doesn't even have eyes on you," Kakashi said. "That's a freeing thought, to be sure. The idea that my greatest enemy doesn't even know I exist offers a comfort to me you don't even know. But that being said, that comfort is marred by the fear that I was chosen for a reason beyond convenience." "You'd think he'd been planning on making you his apprentice for a long time?" Kakashi asked. Obito nodded. "It's why I didn't want to have this meeting at my house. If it's true Madara knows about me, then he'll still try to force me to see his side of things by harming Rin." Kakashi understood. "Then I suppose we don't have time to wait, do we?" he asked. Obito shook his head. "No time at all, I'm afraid. We need to deal with this as soon as possible." "I'll pack my bags," Kakashi said. And so, the next night, Obito also packed his bags and prepared to leave, only leaving a note behind to inform his grandmother that he'd be gone for a little bit. Sneaking out of the village, the two moved through the moonlit night in the direction of the mountain's graveyard. They moved for a few days until they got close. There, they proceeded to camp and get ready for their mission. "How hard will this be?" Kakashi asked. "Likely not too hard," Obito said. "Madara is old and frail, and the Sharingan he possesses are not his own. He never displayed a Mangekyo to me, even once, but even if he had it, I don't think he's got a chance to really use it. He's mostly just a helpless old man as far as I can tell, and even if he's not, our current levels of strength should be more than enough to deal with him. The more pressing issue is the Zetsu army. We're going to likely have to face that in some capacity. Kakashi nodded his head in understanding. That's fine with me. I think we can handle the Zetsu. Besides, what else did we bring this for? With a smile, he summoned from a scroll a large swath of paper bombs that probably had the attack potency of 15,000 megatons of TNT. Certainly took us enough time to make this many. I still don't know how Konan did it, Obito said as he looked at it. She really was a genius when it came to paper. Bet it was easy to beat her at Jankanpon though, Kakashi laughed. Obito chuckled too, though he tried to hide the fear bubbling up in his stomach. Kakashi, ever sensitive to these things, came up to him and put his hand on his shoulder. We're going to be fine. Obito nodded. Yeah, we got this. Returning the paper bombs to their scroll, the two began to make their way into the mountain. Having remembered everything there was to know about this hideout, he knew where all the traps and things that would give away their location would be. This gave them the element of surprise, though they knew far better than to expect that Madara wouldn't sense them. Madara may have been old, but he had hardly lost his mental edge. His mind was as sharp as ever, and as they snuck in, they saw through the darkness a large statue. The Zetsu below were clueless, most of them asleep. From here, they began to slowly plant the tags in all locations, utilizing wind release. As the tags were specifically placed, the old man below spoke. You know I can hear you, yes? The old man's neck slowly turned up to look at them. Obito looked down at him before looking back to Kakashi. Let me handle this. Just finish planting. Are you sure you'll be okay? Kakashi asked. Obito nodded. I can turn intangible if I need. He can't hurt me. Kakashi had in his mind a fear, but decided to trust his friend. Offering a nod of affirmation, he let Obito go. Obito jumped down from where they were hiding and landed in the area before Madara. As he stood there, he was flooded with memories from another time and place. Looking up at Madara, he no longer felt hatred or contempt, but pity, and deep in his heart, even if dim, there was a small glint of gratitude glowing in the dark. He stood there for a moment as Madara looked him up and down. One of my descendants. Obito nodded. Yes, sir. My name is Obito Uchiha, but I suppose you knew that already. Madara offered a slight nod. How did you find this place? The elderly man asked with genuine curiosity. I doubt you could understand, Obito said, but I was reborn into this world from a future that will not come to pass. In another world, I was mortally wounded, and you took me in, cared for me. And you thought to repay kindness with death? Madara asked. Obito shook his head and took his goggles off from his head, holding them before him like a child embarrassed at something he had done. Madara always had that effect of reverting Obito to his base parts. There was a charisma that demanded respect, and whether you desired to give it or not, it took its pound of flesh regardless. No, sir. I would have been grateful, and in some capacities I still am. But the truth was, your rescuing me in that other world was motivated by selfish intents, and after rescuing me, I was transformed into a pawn of yours. I lost the love of my life. She was taken from me, by you, in a desire to turn me into a monster subservient to your viewpoints. And worst of all, it worked. I bought in, and even after you entrusted everything to me, I continued down that path of my own accord. In that way, I did to others what you did to me. Perhaps worse. I became you in all but every sense of the word. Madara listened. I suppose that explains your knowledge of this place. I assume that means you understand my plan as well. Obito nodded. I do. I know your intentions behind it. You are as I became. You believe that, even if you must do something undeniably evil, that it's a sacrifice to be made for a world that's better. In some ways, you're still trying to do what you think is good, but your methods are more harmful than helpful. And the world would be better off without... Obito stopped himself. The world would be better off without you. Despite how much this man had hurt him, there was still something in Obito that identified with Madara. What Obito became was a facsimile of Madara, and in his heart, some of those traits still existed. To some degree, Obito was no longer talking to Madara, but to that part of himself that was like Madara. He was speaking to himself. Madara sat there. His responses were hard to gauge, as he always had that same look about him. He could have been hurt by the words, or perhaps he simply rejected them. You've come to kill me, to end my dreams, haven't you? Obito nodded. Your Ten-Tails, your Zetsu army, your will. I feel like I was brought back just to stop you. Madara began to chuckle. In a cosmic sense, this is quite humorous. It was by chance, it seemed, that the Rinnegan came to me, and now, by chance, my dreams are to be dashed. What game is being played with me? For what reason did I awaken them at all, if for nothing to come of it? Obito shook his head. If I may be so bold as to interpret, I think you're missing the point. You awakening the Rinnegan was never about you, I believe. Elaborate. There's a boy out there who now holds the Rinnegan, and he deeply believes in peace, just as we do, but his beliefs are purer. They're naive, Madara said. Perhaps, but naivete can often be a word to describe someone who knows the truth. And what is that truth? Madara asked. You once said that we needed to wake up to reality, and that nothing in the world went as planned. The world was cruel, and that the only way for the world to be happy was to be forced to recognize only love, and only winners. But that's not how to go about it. The world is indeed a cruel place, but we don't fight that cruelty by being cruel ourselves. We fight it by becoming fairer than the world to balance it out. Foolishness, Madara said. You call it so, but you fail to understand, Obito said. We cannot control the world. We cannot tell it what to feel. Free will exists, and so long as people are allowed to choose, they will do that. Some will choose good, some will choose evil. Free will cannot be taken away. It's a gift, a right bestowed upon us by God, and sometimes it's used to choose evil. But all the same, that free will does still exist. What you need to understand is that we can't change the world, nor should we worry about what we can't change. Instead, we should worry about what we can do, and in being kind, in being understanding, we can mend the world one person at a time. All we have to do is open our hearts. And yes, some will refuse and instead try to break it. When you reveal the most sensitive part of yourself to someone, some will respect and accept it, and others will reject and break it. They'll break your heart. Your heart will hurt and need to be put back together again. And sometimes those scars have a hard time going away. But those scars are the scars that make a real shinobi. I can't give up on people, not again. You've not seen the world like I have. You think that just because you've seen a world war and the darker sides of the shinobi world that you now understand humans? In the time where I came from, I saw the base instincts of man. Kill or be killed. And it set off an endless cycle that robbed me of everything. Robbed me of friend, of family, of my very soul. Obito looked down in understanding. I understand. No, you do not, Madara said. No, I do, he said as he looked up. Wiping his eyes, he smiled at Madara. I do understand. I experienced pain and loss as well, and struggled with the pure instinct to destroy. In my world, your plan almost worked. I merged with the Ten-Tails, and I lost myself to it. I tried to get rid of my heart to accomplish what was good, but when the beast took over, I had to remember who I was. You're right about one thing. The base instincts of man are rotten. They exist only to destroy and take pleasure in it, but I believe that man is meant for more. Our base instincts drive us to destroy, but we have the chance to be more. That's what I want for the world to realize, and that's what I'm going to work to prove. Mankind is messed up, but we don't have to be. As Madara listened, he let out a sigh. Then I suppose we'll see what kind of world you will make. He waved Obito forward. Obito drew closer. Madara spoke. If you will destroy my dreams, then you must also end my life. I will not see everything destroyed with these eyes. Obito drew closer to Madara still, and in a strange moment of connection, Obito hugged Madara, something that confused the old man. The two were closer than they seemed, and in this moment, in Obito's head, he saw himself hugging the masked man whose scarred face was hidden from the world. Reaching behind Madara, he gripped the cord connecting him to the Ten-Tails. Goodbye, Obito said. He pulled the plug. Madara died in Obito's arms. The masked man died in Obito's arms. None of the Zetsu were aware of what had happened. Kakashi jumped down, having finished rigging the place. Are you okay? He asked Obito. Obito wiped his eyes. Yeah, I'm fine. Let's go. The two would escape the cave. The place exploded, and the Zetsu were destroyed, along with the Gedo statue and the remainder of Madara's will. Returning to Konoha, there was something else to be done. Though Obito had solved the issue his past had brought to the table, Kakashi knew that there was an issue that his past brought to the table as well, and he knew that if the world was to avert the warpath it was set upon, there was one last thing they needed to do. Danzo Shimura, Kakashi said, the name Obito immediately recognized. It was Danzo's fault that the Akatsuki turned into a terrorist organization in the first place, he said. Well, Obito said, scratching the side of his face with a bit of shame. Kakashi felt awkward suddenly. Well, true, but he likely would have done so anyway, and even if he didn't, he's still responsible for the downfall of the Uchiha, and that's something that... Obito cleared his throat again. Wow, you really had a finger in all manner of pies, didn't you? Kakashi said. I know. I was a really horrible person, Obito said with a disheartened sigh. Well, it's okay, because now you're helping prevent it. Boiling it all down to its base parts, we need to off Danzo, because if we don't, he'll bring a totally new 4th Shinobi World War all on its own. Obito understood. If I remember correctly, he's set to leave Konoha to head to Ame to speak with Hanzo very soon. If we intercept him on the way, we might be able to deal with him. All we have to do is separate him from the group. And so they set out to track Danzo Shimura, waiting for him to come down the road toward Ame. He had his root guards with him. Obito, in the tree beside Kakashi, kept his hand on his shoulder. Kakashi would then cast Kamui to warp Danzo to the other dimension. The moment he did, Obito warped himself and Kakashi to the Kamui realm as well. Danzo looked around at the location and began to question where he was. It was then that he met Obito and Kakashi, each keeping their masks on. They could not and would not reveal their identities, nor give him the honor of knowing why he would die. This man was as evil as Madara, but his reasoning was not of selfless intent. Even Madara did his evil for the sake of what he perceived to be good. Danzo's evils were for selfish reasons, and though he had at one time been a valuable tool to Obito, that time was long gone, and now all he was a threat. And so, Obito and Kakashi rushed him, using 6 Paths Enhanced Chidori. To their surprise though, Danzo disappeared and reappeared elsewhere. There's no way he had his arm this early, Kakashi said. He doesn't, Obito said. He doesn't get that until later, but that doesn't mean he doesn't have a Sharingan to cast the jutsu with. Turning around, Danzo knew that this was an assassination attempt, and prepared to fight back. Using the summoning technique, he summoned to his location his chimera summon Baku. The giant creature that looked to be an elephant mixed with a tiger and some other animals dwarfed them by a lot. Completely under Danzo's control, who now rode upon it, it became clear to them that Danzo was no slouch. Even without his Sharingan, he still had battle potential. Being far younger now than he was at the 5 Kage summit, he would have more strength. There was only one way Obito could think that they could defeat him. Kakashi, Obito said as he ran toward him. Baku, charging at them again, intended to trample them. Kakashi ran toward Obito, and in a moment before they were trampled, their hands clasped together. As if a bolt of lightning ran through them, they felt their Mangekyo awaken. Suddenly, a giant azure Susanoo appeared and caught the creature. Flipping it, Danzo went flying. Baku hit the ground and dissipated. Danzo attempted to run and hide, but he was quickly grabbed by the Susanoo. "Who are you?" he asked in terror. "2 shinobi who will ensure you'll never hurt the world again for your own gain," Kakashi said. And with that, they crushed Danzo. These things having been done, Kakashi and Obito were free to return to Konoha. They continued to live their lives and complete their missions. The war eventually ended, and Rin survived. Furthermore, after becoming the 4th Hokage, Minato and his wife Kushina gave birth to their firstborn son, Naruto. Both parents survived to raise him. Yahiko was never killed and continued to work toward peace, even gaining the favor of Hanzo, who would later step away from his position and offer it to Yahiko, who would use his influence and the abilities of his friends to begin carving a new future of peace for the whole world. And as they all grew, Kakashi spoke. Now's the time. Obito would go to Rin and speak with her. He would begin to confess his love, but she would admit that she always knew. She always wondered why he'd never said anything though. It was here that Obito began to explain everything that happened. He expected her to think he was crazy, or worse, believe him. Whatever it was, if their relationship were to work, he had to tell her the truth about who he was. He couldn't hide anything. He was startled to know that she believed him, and was even more surprised to hear what she would say next. "You made many mistakes, yes, but you found your way back, and what's more, you set right the things that you put wrong," she said. "I'm actually quite proud of you," she said. And with that, she kissed him. Kakashi watched on as the two of them did so. He could already hear the wedding bells ringing. From there, he decided to skedaddle to give them some privacy. And that's where I plan to stop it for now. I hope you enjoyed this video. I had considered adding in some sort of long battle between Madara and Obito, but I felt that a simple conversation fit the concept better. This was more than Obito confronting a ghost of his past. This was Obito confronting himself, who he used to be, and I felt that there was more to be done with that than just a simple fight. That might have actually been one of my favorite points in the story. But what about you? Let me know in the comments what your favorite part was, and if you liked this video and enjoy this channel's content, consider clicking the like button and subscribing to the channel. Not only does it help support the channel, but it also gives you the option to be informed every time we release more content. Here's some other videos that I think you might like. Until next time, peace out.